What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now today I have an unboxing and first impressions on this boot right here, the Skechers Razor. Now this is Skechers' second boot that they ever made. The first one was the SKX01, which I already did a first impressions on, and this is their second one. This is basically their speed boot, and here it comes in the Skechers box. You guys can see here the label. It actually shows the picture of the boot, which is pretty cool, and Skechers football. And then here also, which is kind of nice that they include, is the tech specs, or like the things that the boot has. So you guys can see their Hyper Burst Pro, which I believe is the insole, carbon infused in the sole plate, and then their performance knit, which is basically that knitted like one piece material that does make the tongue. So this is in this white and blue colorway, which I think just looks very clean. It's very nice. And unboxing it, you do get a string bag, which is pretty nice to have. Same string bag as the other boot. You have your Skechers logo there, and it's white and this like silver. Kind of matches the colorway itself. Now we have here the box, and it just has a lot of paper. A lot of paper actually. And boom, here we have the boots themselves, which I think look amazing. This colorway is just beautiful. I feel like just whiteout boots in general are really good, and the hint of colors it just makes it even better. And then here we have the sole plate in this icy blue, which looks really nice in my opinion. You guys can see here is the carbon infused piece, which we'll talk about a bit more. But yeah, overall, I really like this colorway. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this colorway from Skechers. Alright, so here we have the Skechers Razor. And this boot really caught my eye just because it does look a lot like the Vapor from Nike. And more specifically, it looks like the Vapor 10. It does have like a similar shape, and the upper kind of looks similar as well. And having it in hands, I'm actually pretty impressed with the boot itself. It is pretty light. The upper does feel nice and soft. And I'll just do my best to give my first impressions of this boot. Alright, so first we'll talk about the upper. So this upper is like obviously a synthetic upper. It is like a two-piece upper. You guys can see here is the seam where you have this fused layer that covers the seam, I guess. And then this material is actually nice and soft. It's not overly thin, I would say. It's not like super like thin. It's not like a Vapor upper thin. It does have a little bit of like thickness to it. It's not like thick either, but it's not overly thin. But I feel like you still will get a barefoot touch on the ball. You guys can see here it does have some texture. Hopefully the camera picks it up. Some dimple texture here, and it covers like the entire upper here. And I feel this will provide just a little bit of grip. It won't feel super slick on the ball. Now moving on to the back of the boot, and like in the middle section, we have a different material it is pretty thin. It is still nice and soft, even though it is a different material. And this material, I'm pretty sure, will just provide a lot more structure and kind of helps reduce the weight as well. It is thinner than this material, and it's more like a textile material, so it is kind of thinner, and I feel like it will provide a little bit more support. So I feel like the lockdown might be good in these. Obviously, I won't know until I try the boots. Here in the middle, we do have a knitted material, which feels nice and stretchy. I feel like it's like any knitted material found from other companies, so it feels pretty good. It does have some like texture to it. Actually, it has these like chevron lines. It's kind of hard to see because of the laces, but yeah, it doesn't really do anything in my opinion. Here in the heel, we do have some padding. It's a nice gray synthetic suede material. It's very soft. Hopefully this does a really good job of holding your heel. We do have the insole, and I'm just going to take the insole out just to show you guys, just because this is in their like tech specs that it is like the Hyperburst Pro, which I guess is their like own memory foam. And the insole itself is actually kind of squishy, and it is a bit on the thicker side, which is nice. So I feel like you will get a good amount of underfoot cushioning from this. But yeah, it feels actually pretty nice and spongy. I really like the way this feels. So I'm just curious how this will feel on feet. So moving on with the sole plate, this is really heavily inspired by the Vapor. And you guys can see it has these chevron studs and basically kind of like the same layout. This will provide a good amount of bite when pushing forward and stuff. The sole plate itself is actually kind of flexible. You guys can see it's easy to flex. It's not that stiff. I feel like the other model from Skechers, the SKX01, is a lot stiffer. This one actually kind of feels pretty soft, which I'm actually surprised by just because this is like their speed boot. And I feel like you would want a little bit more responsiveness in the toe. Here, their carbon infused like material is in the heel. So here it is, I guess, pretty stiff. Like it doesn't really move at all. But here in the like the forefoot, it is kind of flexible. So I'm kind of confused why they would put the carbon infused material in the back of the heel instead of here in the front. I feel like it could go in these little spaces right here, so you have a little bit more stiffness, just because this like sole plate is kind of flexible. Which honestly, for me, I don't mind. But I feel like since it is a speed boot, obviously you want a little bit more responsiveness here in the forefoot of the boot. But we'll see how it performs once I do play with them. Alright, so now we'll move on to an on-feet portion and I'll talk about the fit and the sizing. Alright guys, so here I have the boots on feet, and these are actually super comfortable, like straight out of the box. Like the upper is nice and soft. I don't have any weird like spots like that kind of pinch me at all, even though this is kind of like a speed boot. It fits really great. And I feel like people that have a wider foot are going to be really happy with these. Like if you wanted to try a speed boot but you can't just because you do have a wider foot, these are an excellent option. Just because I think it just fits well and they just have a good amount of like width all throughout. Like the volume is kind of on the lower side still, but because there is a good amount of width, they just fit really well and they just feel really comfortable. Now I'm really impressed with this synthetic upper. It just feels really nice, like on feet. Like I don't really have any weird, like it just feels very soft and it moves naturally with my feet. You guys can see my toes wiggle there. They feel really good. The midfoot feels pretty secure even though it is a bit wider, so that's good. The heel feels pretty good as well. Like no movement whatsoever with it right now, so that's also a good sign. What I really like about this boot is the shape, just like the SKX. It's not very like narrow in the toe box. For the most part, it goes pretty like straight through and it's kind of squared off or like boxed off. It's not very like narrow. So like my toes just have a good amount of like wiggle room and they just feel very comfortable. I will say the only thing that I kind of find annoying is like when I bend my foot, you guys can see all these like creases here. I'll move it up. Like this seam right here, it kind of like pushes into my foot. And I feel like that will go away once I do start breaking into boots and like this like type of stuff goes away. But right now, just when I do that, it kind of just digs into my foot. It's not overly uncomfortable, it's just noticeable. I don't notice it with my left foot, which is kind of weird, just on my right. So I feel like that's just going to go away once I do start using the boots. In terms of sizing, I went true to size and these fit perfectly, so I would just recommend going true to size. And it doesn't really feel like a vapor. Like vapors kind of fit a bit more tighter and more snug. And these just, I don't know, they just feel a little bit different. They don't really feel like a vapor. So even though they look like a vapor, I wouldn't say that they feel exactly like a vapor. But overall, I'm really happy with the way these boots fit. They're just comfortable. Like I can't really complain about anything except that like seam area, which I feel will go away once I do start wearing them. And yeah, only positive things about this boot. All right, so I'll leave you guys with my final thoughts. So overall, I'm actually impressed with the Skechers Razor. The upper feels pretty good on feet. The fit overall is pretty good. I feel like if you have a wider foot and are looking for speed boots, this is a really good option just because there's a little bit more width and volume compared to a Nike Vapor. And it's kind of crazy that this is Skechers' first boot that they ever made just because it is really that good. So I will be doing a playtest in these, and there I will be talking about the performance, if there's any heel slippage or if there's any movement in the boot. That will give me a better idea of how I feel about the boot, but so far I'm impressed. But yeah, that's it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you're notified for the playtest of this boot. If you guys have any questions on this boot, make sure to leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.